Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. My name is Vaishali, and today I'd like to talk about the beautiful and the baneful aspect about our adaptabilities. So we as a species are pretty adaptable when it comes to us adapting to our circumstances and our situations. And I think it is this adaptability that has helped us survive the wilderness and has taken us into places today where we have evolved as a species that we have evolved into. But probably when those adaptive mechanisms are prolonged over for a long period of time, they become our habituated patterns, and at times they might prove to be very unhealthy. So in keeping with that thought, I'd like to take my personal example over here. I recently had a wisdom tooth extraction which I had been delaying, I believe, for at least 15 to 16 years, if not more. So fortunately or unfortunately, I got all of my 4 wisdom teeth and I had to remove all of them. And of course, that did not happen in one sitting. It happened over a period of time. Now, the wisdom tooth that were on the upper jaw had been removed quite a long time back, but it was the lowers that I took time to get extracted. Unfortunately, or not so fortunately, the 2 lower wisdom tooth were embedded under a bone, slightly embedded under a bone. And in order to get to them, my gum had to be slightly cut open to reach to the bone, which then had to be chiseled, which then had to be cut out in order to extract the tooth from the root itself. And it wasn't an easy procedure, if I had to say anything about it. It took a lot of time, and to an extent, it was painful. So when I knew that this had to be done at some point in time, why had I delayed it in the first place? Because I was afraid of the pain. Because I was afraid of the needles that would be jabbed in my jaw, that would be jabbed in my gums. Now the next question is, had the wisdom tooth not started to go bad during this time, all this while? Yes, it had started to decay slightly, but I could have pulled it on for another few years in order to avoid the pain, in order to avoid the fear of the needle that I had to face someday or the other. I could have delayed it to the point wherein there would have been no other choice but to extract it, however painful that might have been. The way I had postponed it for so long, for a few more years, just to avoid the pain of that needle, just to avoid my own fear of facing the needle. After all, I had done it for so long, for more than a decade. Could I not do it a little more? Of course I could have done it. We are pretty adaptable to our own dysfunctionalities as well at times. We get so habituated to not feeling that pain, or to avoid feeling that pain, or to avoid feeling that needle or that confrontation, that we keep pushing it aside till it becomes a habituated pattern. And not just with wisdom tooth, that was just a metaphor, but we all do it on some level to avoid the discomfort of facing that thing that we have been avoiding for so very long, of facing something that we have gotten so adapted and used to. Now, over time, we all get used to our own dysfunctionalities, to our own habituated patterns, because we have kind of adapted to those patterns, to those situations, to those circumstances, replaying things over and over and over again in our lives, in our behaviors, in our thoughts, in our actions, in our deeds. And it almost becomes like a second skin in nature to us. And the wisdom tooth or the needle over here was just a metaphor to help us understand our own habituated ways of relating to our own habituated, even dysfunctional patterns. And all of those patterns might have been helpful at one point in time. That is why they were brought into the picture. But after a certain point, probably they help no more. After a certain point beyond their expiry date, if we still continue to use them, if we still continue to function with them, they gradually become toxic. Just like any medication which if we use after their expiry shelf life, will get toxic in the system. So I had to gather a lot of courage in order to remove that tooth right from the root. Even if I had been having that with me for the last 17 to 18 or even 20 years. Like I said, it wasn't easy. It was a little painful, not only for me, but also for the person or the dentist who was removing it. Not to mention the tooth had also hooked itself in my gums. So it was all the more difficult for the dentist to remove it. Once it was removed, there was a bit of bleeding. Once it was removed, there was a slight hole. There is a slight hole, an empty space that is left due to the extraction or due to the removal of that tooth. Once it was removed, I also noticed that there is a slight swelling that has remained on my face for the past few days. And it will gradually heal. And to enable it to heal, I also have to take certain antibiotics and certain other medications, which is causing a lot of unease and a lot of discomfort in my gut area. And I can decide and choose not to take those medications, to not feel the discomfort in my gut while I'm feeling the discomfort in my face and in my mouth. And it may help me for a little bit of time, but it may not necessarily be the most healthy, helpful mechanism in the longer run. Comfort in my gut to avoid at least one discomfort. But there'll always be a price that I'll have to pay, if not now, then tomorrow. And the extraction of this tooth also told me that if one part of the system is not working well, the other parts of the system cannot really operate very well. Just like the tires of the car, if one tire of the car collapses, the car really cannot move. So either you have to repair the tire itself to make it anew, or we have to replace the whole tire itself. And at the same time, I also realized that a stitch in time saves 9. And this procedure made me question our own habituated patterns, which with time, if not really taken care of, if you're not aware of them, can become dysfunctional over a longer period of time. And then we even kind of get used to them. We start normalizing them. We start calling them normal human behaviors, human patterns. And maybe it's time that we get a little more curious, to get a little more aware about our own adaptive, habituated dysfunctionalities, so that we can extract them from the root before it gets too late. Let's try and get curious about it for ourselves. Let's try and become a little more aware of them. Let's try to catch them before they catch hold of us. And I will see you once again the next week. Till then, stay tuned in. And guys, if you do like the contents of my videos, please do like, share and subscribe.